Hello and welcome to the Outlier Marketer Show. I'm your host, Pravin Shekar, an Outlier Marketer. In this show, we talk to the movers and shakers in the world of marketing, creativity, ideation, especially those who think, act, and are quite different. Today, we have one such person with us, Harish Kumar. Harish is an artist, he's a filmmaker, a professional speaker, a magician on how you can transform yourself on stage, be it the regular stage or the virtual one. His signature event involves getting an entire audience to make a movie in a single large canvas in under 3 hours, and he has done it quite a few times. I know Harish across multiple facets as an entrepreneur, a professional speaker, a creator, an artist, a videographer, cinematographer, ad man, and we are going to be talking to Harish on what is creativity. So, welcome Harish to the Outlier Marketer Show.
Thank you, Praveen. Pleasure being on the talk show with you. I know talking to you is always a live wire, and it's absolute pleasure being here today.
Harish, the first question, just to set the stage, you've dabbled into a lot of things and have done it quite successfully. How does all that fit into something together?
Okay. Like most people would say, but I always had a plan, I had a vision, how this is going to be. No, I'm not going to give that kind of a bullshit around in terms, because what actually happens is when you start off, I had one thing in mind, I'm going to be like a constant explorer. I'm going to be a constant learner. I'm going to try different things that excites me, because that had always been my mantra. So I've always done things that are always exciting to me in terms of be it art, be it design, be it films. I know it is all revolves around the creative, artistic facet of it. But even then, these are all like in its own a different stream of things. And I was always excited. So I always went around learning. And fortunate for me, I had some amazing mentors and experts under whom I learned a lot of stuff. So my learning curve was very interesting, and they were very practical people, I would say, because they kind of, cleared all this air and mystery out of my head. Typically you finish your masters, you're doing film, and you think, I'm this $1 million thing, but they say nothing doing, get down to brass tacks, basics. This is how you take up the curve. So I think that was like, and it looked very hazy all along for a lot of years. I would say until a couple of years back, where I would say I was doing this, but I didn't know where I was heading to. But then now when I look back and when I start looking back at the journey of like over 2 decades, and then I say, you know what? Okay, these were those dots, what I did. And today I can connect a picture and put it all together by saying, hey, you know what? This is going to shape up how I'm going to head going forward. So I think creativity is that journey. You can't really pin down. You need to travel on the boat, and then you will find those dots, and then you start connecting those dots, and magic starts to happen.
Lovely, Harish. Now, taking you back to the basics here, what is creativity according to you? A lot of people have a lot of different definitions and all that, but what is Harish's?
Okay, I'm not going to give you any Oxford dictionary definition for sure in terms of what exactly is creativity. But I think the fundamental aspect of being creative is about that open-mindedness. I always tell people, even in my talks and when I'm talking, people talk always about why in our businesses, in our life. We say, why should I do this? Why am I doing this? Why are they doing this? But the moment people start saying, why not I do this, or why not I try this, I think that is the fundamental difference I see. Because moment you start saying why not, you just think, you are talking about all possibilities and opportunities. So it relates to an idea, it relates to a business, it relates to even our personal life. Even at home, when probably your wife or your girlfriend is saying something, why you want to do this, and you say, why not we try this, it suddenly opens up a basket of creativity. And creativity actually comes from that, where you're letting lots of ideas to fundamentally flow in, soak it in, and then you start making sense of all the things put together. And to me, creativity is like that funnel. You take all that and then you narrow down And I think funnel is something you will relate more closer because and it's kind of that kind of a whole idea, where you're there, probably you're taking the audience and filtering and coming down. I would say here it's about ideas and different thoughts which you funnel, and then you narrow it down and come up with a piece. And that's creativity for me.
Brilliant. So here we have the Indian version, or the Indian opposite version of Simon Sinek, who says, start with why not, find your why not, and that will feed your creativity. Lovely, Harish, lovely. But in the introduction, I did say that you've made corporate honchos, really big shot corporate honchos, shoot movies. I have been a part of an art workshop, which we will talk about later. But the question I'm leading to, Harish, can you really teach people to be creative?
Oh, yes, very beautiful question. I think when I'm actually talking to a lot of corporates or business groups to whom I do the workshop, the fundamental question comes, creativity, we ideate here, what is there to teach? I would say creativity is not like a textbook formula or something, or I show a PowerPoint with 5 points which says, do this, task one, task two, task three, task four, and five, you're creative, you become. No, it does not work that way at all. So what happens in the whole process when I actually work with corporates is understanding a few elements of things. First, like why I said is something like, why not get into that aspect of exploring and learning. Second comes from the very, very big aspect of vulnerability. You're willing to accept what you know, what you don't know, and you're out to tell that to people. And when I talk to most top leaders, they don't want to expose their vulnerable side, because as they grow up, they put too many layers of shield around them, and that shield has made them to be like very guarded. And that I find as one of the major roadblocks to create, because you're not letting things come in. You put a layer, this is what it is, you set your expectations, you set the methodologies, what your team thinks, so your team starts saying, what, my boss likes this, he's like this, and nothing else comes beyond that point. So I think first is exploring that vulnerable side. And once you put that out, I say you start building the whole trust between your team. The team believes, oh, you know what? I can suggest a goofy idea. Even if it is too bad, I'm not going to get fired for that. And once that bonding is open, you will see all sorts of creative collaboration start happening. You create that culture. And I think what I go out and teach to organizations and corporates is looking at these facets. Discover in their organization where it's all guarded, where it is not opening up, or how you have probably, there are lots of things into it, how you have conditioned over the years, where people get conditioned, and we're all conditioned, right? I feel like this is a controversial statement I always make, probably schools are killing creativity to the best extent today, because they condition the children so much that they say, what, don't think anything out of the system. And that's leading to colleges, leading to work. And that's exactly what we teach. So I feel teaching is not like a lecture, but it's more of a discovery call or a discovery exercise, which is what we believe is somebody needs to be open enough. And moment that can be, you can teach the best of creative ideas to do. So I don't have to teach them. I just have to empower you or help you tap your own creative potential. And that's what exactly I do.
So you basically are an onion peeler, removing all the shields until the raw me comes out, ready to be creative and take it up.
Oh, yes. Beautifully put, Pravin.
Now, I want to take you to this art workshop that you did a few years ago for the charter members of TIE Chennai. I would love if you could narrate where the thought process came and what you did. I was, of course, a participant in your workshop, but I would love for you to narrate what you did there.
Okay. Very nice, Pravin, that you brought that up, because I think it was one of the earliest workshops that I had done where we were trying to experiment with the idea. So I would always believe in this whole idea is people, like what I said, where you need to cross that vulnerability quotient. So we said, so when we pitched this whole idea to Thai, and we said, why don't we do an art base? So initially there was a lot of reluctance from the group and a lot of charter members. He said, art of all the things, we're going outbound. Who's going to be interested in doing art? Art is like a very school kid, you can do these workshops for kids. I don't think they're all like CEOs and CXOs. I don't think they're going to be interested. But I did that hard sell of convincing them. I said, trust me, you just let's just pick up these materials and let's just go and trust me, we'll do this. And what got them excited is I told them one business pitch there. I said, you know what, we'll make some canvases, and if these canvases, we'll try and sell it back to them and raise money for the organization. That triggered an idea, and they said, hey, okay, there is a revenue potential out of this idea. Why not? Okay. And there came the whole idea of saying, okay, let's try it out. And when we went out and tried, and Pravin, you were party to it, so you would know. The first thing, I had not even started the whole exercise. I was just doing the icebreaker, and I had given the paint, and people went crazy just with the paint. They just went berserk, and they were not kids. They were all like senior CEOs and CXs, all of them sitting there. But that was that, the play element. So I always tell in creativity, one of the most important thing is play. So you need to start with play. It's like getting back to being like a child. What you were as a kid. You would love to play, explore different things, pick up, fall down, again get up and try do that. So what we do as part of this thing is to take you back there, make you realize by saying, you know what? Now just imagine you were a kid, what you would do. And suddenly they forget what positions of life they were in, and they start being that kid. And moment they are a kid, they start developing everything. And you saw what happened that day. People from playing around and goofing, then they moved to a slightly serious structure where they actually got together, 3-4 of them, never done an art, and some of them have never even touched canvas or painting. And by the end of an hour or so, they were actually ready with a serious canvas. Right. All it needed was one or two tips here and there. See, that's probably the little technical part of it, but you gave them that tip, but they made use of all the elements given to them and they came out. And best part, those canvases got sold and revenue was generated. So, and I always tell people, it's about getting to do that journey of playing, crossing the vulnerability threshold, and then all sorts of magic and creativity starts happening.
Oh, brilliant, Harish. I was not privy to the sales that you did to Tai Chennai earlier on, but it is lovely. Not only did you come up with something new to stoke the creativity, but also the end sell, which I can comment for the viewers and listeners, that these paintings were auctioned at a Thai charter member meet, and about 1.2 lakhs, approximately $2,000 were collected as charity back in. So Harish, that's a brilliant case. That was also the early stages of our interaction. And from a participant in the workshop, we've gone ahead to do a whole lot of things. Now, my next question to you is stretching and translation. How much can I stretch creativity? Well, I see a really good creative resume. I shortlist the person, we even recruit the person. But that creativity is missing when the person joins the company and is given a process to follow. It's pretty much like what you told on the school and education front. How do we translate that creativity into the organization? Now, I'm an entrepreneur, so are you. We don't have a choice but to be creative and experimental. But when you look at an associate, what can spark that associate to be creative and continue to be creative?
Oh, very valid question, Pravin. I think that's something we battle on a daily basis in terms of how creative. And I would get back to like my early days, when I was a assistant filmmaker at with Prahlad Kakar and we were doing ads. I remember one guy actually came with a resume written on an inner garment. He actually came and said, "This is my resume." So there were like two sets of thoughts running in that room that day, where people were saying, one felt like, hey, that's actually so cool, and he actually did that. and the other side felt it's extremely unhygienic as an idea. Oh, it's too disgusting for me to read through that resume. That's exactly where creativity, having a purpose and not having a purpose stands. The end
Harish,
of the day.
it's a literal ad brief.
Good one, Pravin. Yes. So it's exactly like that, where you're doing that creative work. End of the day, that creative piece has to make sense for some business. Otherwise, I'm better off doing an artwork of my own for my own satisfaction. There I'm not bound by any other commercial requirement or need. Whereas when it's in a business cycle where I'm part of an agency or I'm doing a solution for a corporate, they are spending that money. So be it like right now, we're designing on a project where we are designing an exhibition gallery. I just can't go and do whatever I feel like just because there's somebody giving me the money and I have the creativity. I just go and do whatever I feel like. No, there is a purpose, there is a vision, and you have a goal to be achieved. In that goal, how creative can I get in terms of how it is represented, how it is taken shape? And that's the difference. And people need to know that, it is just not like just because creativity does not mean you do any random stuff under the sun, that for that, go home, do your own stuff, I would say writing. See, if you want to just write for the pleasure of writing, nobody's questioning you. But then if you want to sell it to a publisher, you better get into that sphere of what the publisher would want. And Pravin, you would agree more on this because you publish so many books. So like you just can't write anything under the sun. A circle under which you need to bring that creativity on.
Brilliant. Harish, for the benefit of the viewers and listeners, I want you to give a sampling of all the things that you're working on currently.
Okay. So one disclaimer, don't think I'm crazy and a nut job here at this moment.
From one to another. So feel free, go ahead.
One, like personally, like I believe, and I've got a lot of reinforcement from the great Einstein itself, who used to dabble around with 15, 16 projects at one point of time. So I said, okay, I've not still touched 16 projects at one time. So I'm like good there. So primarily what I do is I run the production house, Hypnotics. So as part of Hypnotics, we make industrial films, corporate films, commercials, music videos and stuff like that. A lot of it goes towards creating learning content for corporates, industrial safety in terms of process, orientation. So that's like one of the core content that we do. And that apart, we do a lot of work with a lot of digital agencies. They want audiovisual content done for them. So we act as like the specialized arm of working with different agencies, developing audiovisual content. So we're more like a content company. So we develop audiovisual content and deliver. Then, as part of OutDeBox, I'm into designing a lot of experience centers and galleries. I recently finished one of India's largest marketing place called Market of India. So we designed a 27,000 square feet experience center. So that has come out and that's active, and we're developing a lot of audiovisual content for them. So as well to keep the experience center active in its sphere. We're currently designing a gallery for Shankara on his life, and we had already done one gallery, so we're doing the second gallery for the Shankara Mutt. In terms of that's an amazing experience because it's completely on a different tangent. One is a marketing angle, the other is on a spiritual angle of designing a space. The third is we're working on for a hospital, though I can't disclose the name of the hospital and others. Is it like a unique birthing center? So we're creating the whole experience of a birthing center in terms of large screens, mood lighting. So the whole birthing experience is what I would say sensory in terms of the audio, sound, visual, and the whole thing coming together.
The baby is born creative.
Yes. So that apart, and of course, the virtual world is there where I keep doing workshops, talks. My physical outbound workshops have not happened for want of the COVID and other things. But yes, on the virtual platform, training, running a managing a platform, and then lots of virtual events, emceeing. So it's, I would say, no complaints. It's kept me busy from, maybe we've had the shift done, but then my plate is like, I'm happy juggling these things across.
With all of this, Harish, on the creative plane, when can we expect your book to come out?
I knew Pravin is going to. So I've always been off the record on this front, but then now that Pravin has caught me online and I'm committing, so I would ensure by 2021 I'll have the book ready. So
Oh, we are
this
looking
year end,
forward
I'll
to
have
it.
the book ready. It's tentatively titled. I've started work on it. It's titled Out the Box. So it's more on how to live life out of the box while you're still in the box.
Right. Now, I would, of course, request you to share your tips here, very specific to a lot of people who think they are introverted and therefore shy away from any sort of creativity, or even when they are creative, they fall prey to the imposter syndrome. They don't want other people to know about it. It is like my friend who writes the exam like this. Not that we want to have the answer, but Harish, as somebody whom I have seen stretch the entire creativity sphere, and therefore I would look at your response to people like this who are holding back rather than unleashing themselves. What would your tip be for them?
Okay. I can take this from my own personal example. Till about midway in my school, I wasn't that extroverted as a child or anything, though I had my liking, I would love to go out and play my sport and other things. But barring that, I was like pretty much on my own, maybe dabbling, doing some artworks or doodles, and pretty much that kind of a boy, who would sit and do that. But at some point of time in my schooling days, what happened was I had this transition. I had to move. My dad moved us into a different city, different language, different culture. But then there it was a need because you had to change your mode, you had to adapt to that new language, you had to speak. That pressure put me on to start thinking, okay, I need to do, it was the surrounding. And then step by step, there were things in school and after school activities. I started going to different forums, there was like JCs and stuff like that, which actually where they would say, I used to be like that kid with all those senior guys. They said, go give this vote of thanks, go do this introduction of the speaker and stuff like that. And that prompt me to go out and do something. I would do that mistake or whatever happened, but then I would go out and do that. That is what I would say is the fundamental thing. Forget that failure, forget what you know, what you don't know. Be bold and go out and say something or do something. Because that, the moment you take that failure out of that system, right, you'll just go, hey, what the hell is going to happen, man? I'm going to just go and say it, or I'm going to just going to do that painting, or I'm going to just write this stuff. And moment you do that, you will see, yeah, you will probably fail 2 times. I think by the third time, you would have picked up what needs to be done. I could never speak confidently English in terms of 10 people. But today, if you put me in front of 1,000 people, I don't think I'll get excited rather to go out and speak in front of 1,000 people. And that's the primary thing, like in the whole that ad, they say "Dar ke aage jeet hai" types. It is actually very true. It's that little fear and syndrome, or we overthink. That's also from being very creative. You also have that other syndrome where you try to make it all perfect. I cannot show this product. I used to have that at some point of time in my career too, where you used to say, you know what, I don't think the video is still that good. I need to edit more, I need to color correct it, I need to do it. So you end up tweaking. So there is no end to it. At some point of time you say, okay, I'm drawing this line, I'm going to let the world decide. And don't be too bothered. Take the right feedback, move ahead, do more. So it's all about doing more stuff out there, and you are going to master the craft.
Beautiful. Lokesh here says, go bonkers with your creativity. We have a question that's come in. What are the benchmarks for creativity? Are there any?
Yes, I think the first benchmark is you. It's like it has to appeal here, it has to appeal here first.
Well, Harish has just stepped out, and until he comes back, let me go ahead and answer the question for you. Continuation with what Harish was talking about. Is there a benchmark? The benchmark is you. And I would use the same metrics that Harish spoke a few minutes ago in terms of going ahead, creating and releasing it to your limited circle. You need to know whom you have to go ahead and take the creative feedback from. That would be the second point. And third, if you ask me, is to go ahead and do it, building on what Harish said, that the more you do, the more you put it across to the world starts getting closer and coming more and more towards you. So, Ragul, I hope I have answered that question across. Well, take failure out of the system that keeps coming back, and that is brilliant. And that would be one key message that I would go ahead and talk about in terms of what we are looking at. What is creativity? Beautifully put forth by Harish. And with that, we would bring it to a wrap. If you have a whole lot of questions, we can go right ahead and take it up. Harish, we will coordinate, and Harish will provide the answers across to you. All right. Do you have any further questions here, folks? Because to me, as an outlier marketer, it always comes down to what is it that we can do something new? What envelope can we push? What box can we screw? What else can we do to shake things up? Because the normal, he mentioned about Dar Ke Aage Jeet Hai from Mountain Dew, but I grew up in the 7-Up Fido Dido times when it says normal is boring. So we have these two options. A question on the benchmark did come out. If you ask me what books, well, as an outlier marketer, it is always J. Conrad Levinson that we are talking about. Harish has just stepped right back in. Harish, you were talking about the benchmarks for creativity, and you started off saying you as the first step. I did go ahead and do some filler, but the question comes right back at you.
I think I let me get that point like, yes, it's you. And I think the camera said, how can it be you? And then the power just blacked out for a couple of seconds. But I think, but I think the reality for this whole thing is because the world need not set the benchmark for you. It is the benchmark is set by you. Whether I have to set it up here, or do I keep increasing this on a daily level? I think you don't need affirmations. You don't need a feedback from people to tell you like this is where you need to be or you've done a great job. No, I think if it appeals to you, and if you feel great about that whole exercise of what you created, I think you've done justice. But then, yes, if it is a project, you're doing it for somebody, better meet that benchmark, what they are setting. Because I tell a lot to my people in my team, because they always have this little conflict, what I want to do a creative stuff and this is what it is. I said there are two sets of things. When somebody is paying you money to get a particular job done or a task done, then that benchmark is set by that person as to what he wants. So if you meet that benchmark, you're a great creative guy because you met out that expectation of what that person wants. Whereas if you are writing something or you're creating something, it is a personal benchmark. Like you're going and speaking out to an audience. If you've made an impact to the audience have felt great about it, you've set the right trigger. But then you just can't see, I like speaking anything under the sun. And the people out there who paid the ticket or spent the money and come and sat down and they're not getting their value for the money, then boss, you have not hit the benchmark there. So I think it's a fundamental difference in terms of understanding. That is the benchmark difference. A lot of people make the biggest mistake in this benchmarking. They set some benchmark for themselves and they think the whole world should think that's a benchmark for them. No, it does not. What benchmark I set may not appeal as a sense because your benchmark is going to be different. But if you're going to do something together, we need to arrive at a common benchmark and try and achieve that. And that is the basic difference, I think, as creative people, as entrepreneurs, as business people who are constantly trying to do something creative, have to have that clarity about.
Swati Maya drops in a comment, stop conditioning our brain. I think that's a very fairly a good point, Swati. A couple of more questions to you here, Harish. You did mention that you have varied interests and therefore you have various sources coming in, which I believe is key to creativity. What are those sources? What podcasts do you listen to? Videos do you watch? What do you do? What are your sources of inspiration, Harish?
Great source. I think the first and foremost source is the nature around me. People, places, things that are happening. I believe observation is one of the primary sources of inspiration that I tell. And touch wood, I would thank one of my uncle who, in when I was a little kid in Calcutta, he used to take me out and take me out to a lot of art galleries and a lot of exhibits and things like that. Little did I know at that age how it's that going to impact. But today, when I look back and start and I said, hey, maybe that exposure triggered a lot. And he would uh, make me appreciate somebody who's making a caricature, or you show me an artist. And that sense, and he said, you know what, it's all about observing people. So your stories are lying there, your sources of inspiration, and it's all around us. It's just that we stop seeing all this and then you start seeing somewhere else. So I think the primary mode of inspiration, I think nothing beats this, because this is like super raw, super powerful. It's just that I need to have my eyes open to capture that. And second, I have great regard to the speaking fraternity that I'm part of, where Pravin, you're also part of. I think a great humbling experience, because great speakers, great contacts, great learning, they're always there to share and give. So I think this, I look back to this community because one little nuggets that I pick up here and there are like $1 million nuggets that I pick up. So that's the second source of inspiration. I really look to that. And then of course, books. I listen to a lot of audio books, and TED Talks are, of course, always there in terms of what I listen and pick up. But then I keep it very varied in terms of what I chew, in terms of right from looking at a YouTube reel to long form content to sports. But I keep that mix so that that keeps my brain also kind of shuffles and picks up little snapshots from here and there.
Right. There's a question here from Inderjit Kaur. Both of us can take a stab at it. Why writers or content creators are not paid well? You are a content creator, and Inderjit, I can tell you, Harish is on the upper tier of it. So, Harish, you have to answer this. Why content creators are? And you've climbed the ladder. I know you've climbed the ladder, but it'll help if you can give your answer.
Oh, there are a lot more to climb, Praveen. But yes, I think it is, when you talk about creative writers and stuff like that, it has to be in terms of knowing your worth. People out there don't know that you're awesome. People out there don't know that you're damn creative. You make a great piece of work, and it is that difference. People have to know that you, like Praveen, you've written 8-line books out there. Until you wrote that, people don't know that you were a great author, but that author was probably sitting inside you for years together. Now, Praveen, you're pushing me to say, Harish, bring out the author in you outside. I have to bring that out. But till I don't bring it out, nobody knows this is Harish. He makes videos, he does art stuff. Harish is an author. I don't know. So till I don't put it out. So the first thing for writers and authors, stop being too guarded of your work. We write a few pages and we think that's the $1 million deal. No, today the world is all out about putting it out. See what you can put out. If you like making videos, you love being in front of the cameras, make a video. If you like writing, make books, do self-published books. Praveen here is an authority, we're saying, where you don't have to, and you can just go publish on your own without anybody's help also. and you can make millions out of that. And if you are an artist, make your artwork, show it to the world. It costs you nothing. But yes, it needs consistency. It needs that effort. I feel lots of creative people get caught up in this whole bubble and a lot of misguidance, whereas in you make that one piece of artwork or you write that one piece of book and you think, you know what, the world has to laud me. It does not come that easily. You have to be at the craft. Some people, maybe the cycle is a little quick, it happens. To some, it takes a longer cycle. That, I don't know, that's maybe a bit of stars and other things around. But then we need to be on that track every day in, day out. And you don't know when that spark will take you up the ladder and take you up. But then we need to be on that road. If you're not on that road to creativity, I don't know. We often get misguided and we miss that road at all.
Lovely answer. Lovely. Thank you, Harish. One final question to you. What is the one book that is close to your heart that you would recommend for all of us here, viewers and listeners?
Oh, I'm like rereading this book. I would say The Design of Everyday Things is a book by Dan Norman, which is amazing piece of work. Right from the cover to the simple content, it gives, and every creative person should read that book. Not because of it's some great piece of content written, but it picks up this whole thing. If you are a designer, if you're a creative artist, if you are doing a product and you're putting out to public or for use, if people say it's not worked or it is not great or they have not understood, the fault lies with me, because I have not communicated or designed it enough for you to understand. So no use, I make a piece and you don't make head or tail of it, then it is not great stuff. So if I make a piece, the onus is on me to make it very clear and objective for you to understand and take it forward and appreciate that. So I think that
Beautiful.
is inspiring, and I would really urge every creative people to actually read that. And of course, if you like a bit of a psychological bent, I would say read How to Have a Beautiful Mind by Edward D. Bono. Amazing book. It just talks about, there's a lot of creativity thoughts there, in terms of communication thoughts there. Must reads, I would say.
Lovely, Harish. It's been great. You always continue to inspire, put that spark across at every interaction. It's been the same here. Thanks a lot for being a part of the Outlier Marketer Show. And all you listeners and viewers, feel free to put your questions across. You can reach out to Harish Kumar on LinkedIn. Search for Hypnotics or OutDeBox. You can get in touch
OutDeBox
with
live, you will get me.
Yes, lovely. So thanks a lot for being a part. Until we see each other, well, the Outlier Marketer Show is here to make you think, act, and be different. Thanks a lot, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. And all the best, Pravin.